Hello again, everyone. I'm Gary Gatso, and welcome to Race First coverage of round 2 of the inaugural season of Velocity Online Racing IR05 season series as we come to you from the Big Oval at Motegi. Joining me in the booth, he's the former champ of the iRacing IndyCar Fixed Series. Please welcome Mark Murphy. Mark, you've already been out there in the car already. Not pleased with the way it handled, but I think that's probably how these cars got their nickname. But we're not going to see any blistering 200-mile-per-hour speeds unless you're in the draft. But more pedestrian low 190s and high 180s is what we're going to see.
Yeah. So Gary, this car drives. This car drives nothing like the current car. So when you talk about coming to Motegi, I love coming to Motegi and IR18. It is one of my top 3 favorite tracks. Coming here in this car is completely different because it's, first of all, it's got a lot more drag, it has a lot less power, and it doesn't have near as much front end grip. And so in the current car, we take turns 1 and 2 completely flat.
Right.
In this car, you're breathing the throttle a little bit because the front end doesn't want to bite. Also in the current car, if you watch the Motegi race on Race First, the top split, that race, you saw guys progressively going up higher and higher. There were 3 and 4 lanes of racing through turns 3 and 4. In this car, you might be lucky to have 2. It's also quite a bit slower, about 10 miles an hour, as you alluded to, per lap. But I do anticipate a pretty good race today. Not maybe from the standpoint of the silliness that we saw at Michigan, but from the standpoint of tactics. You and I both like the tactical, cerebral races where you have to think your way through them. We talked about it last week. No tool adjustments in these cars. They cannot use the bars, they cannot use bars, weight jacker, or fuel mix. Motegi is one of the few tracks that you're going to see on the schedule where the driver with his right foot can make a huge impact on fuel economy. And so I'm interested to see who can go that extra lap or 2. Because it's Motegi. Motegi always turns into a fuel mileage race. Annika Patrick would agree with that. And so there you go. But Motegi is one of those places like Pocono. It always seems to turn into a fuel economy race. And so I'm interested to watch that angle too. Who can go the furthest and take care of their tires and really be around at the end of a run instead of be fast at the beginning. I have an idea who's going to be fast at the beginning. No idea who's going to be fast at the end.
All right, let's get in the weather real quick before we get into racing. 68 degrees is our ambient temperature, 79 degrees track temperature, a 9 mile per hour, now 10 mile per hour wind out of the southwest. So it looks like we got a variable wind out of the southwest. Precip, of course, we're not going to have anything here on the oval, and humidity's at 42%. Watching the cars make some laps here. Currently at the top of provisional pole, Julian Altena, a 190.6. Edson Santos, a 190.4. Mertz, a 190.4, and Doshinko, a 190.3. The kart track record was set here back in 99 by Gilles de Ferran with a speed of just over 219. The IRL IndyCar track record was set here in 2004 by Elio Castroneves with a speed of 205. So as you see, we're kind of well off those numbers. The career wins leaders here are Adrian Fernandez. He has 2 in kart, while Castroneves, Scott Dixon, and Dan Weldon also have 2 in IRL IndyCar competition, albeit Dixon's the only driver to have 1 on the oval and 1 on the road course. Of course, as mentioned, Twin Ring is arguably the site of one of auto racing's most popular mainstream victories in 2008 when Danica Patrick took her one only IndyCar win, making her the only woman in the 100-plus year history of organized IndyCar racing to make it to victory lane. And with that said, it is time to go racing. Let's get this starting lineup in.
On the pole with a lap of 28.753 seconds, Julian Altena outside Edson Santos. In the number 20. Zachary Mertz is going to roll off P3, followed by the outside of him, Fyodor Devisenko, 28.792 for Fyodor. Row 3, Daniel Vinegar and Matthias Strauss. Row 4, John Silva, Sebastian Kinder. Row 5, Gary Loburn and Pedro Blebel make up the top 10. Starting 11th, Caleb Weekly. And last week's third place finisher, Matthew Weeks, will roll off 12th. Alexander Bonney, 13th. Jonathan Diggs, 14th, regular competitor in the IR18 series. Tinge Van de Velde, 15th. Alexander McBean, 16th. With a qualifying ban, Liam O'Sullivan, 17th. And Chris Lewis, shotgun on the field, no speed. He'll start 18th.
All right. And we got that out of the way really quick.
I'm known to be a pretty rapid guy, Gary.
Yeah, you're pretty good. Let's take a look here as everyone gets gridded up here. And just waiting for the pace car here to take off. There we go, getting the last of the load-ins here. Looking real quick here while we're waiting for this. Here are the point situation here with the IR05 series. Julian Altina with the win last week is your leader. Bell with the podium second step there is P2, and Weeks, as we mentioned, P3. That is your top three in your points standings. And
absolutely right. Matthew Weeks.
Go ahead.
Absolutely right. Matthew Weeks, primarily a stock car driver. So looking to get some open wheel experience. This is Michigan probably is something he's more familiar with versus Motegi. Motegi, very different in a stock car. Pedro, accomplished and noted sports car ace. And Julian Altina, of course, runs these cars all the time. And
right.
This is pretty much all he does.
Let's do the team points really quick. There. And as to no surprise, with a first and second last week at Michigan, Altina Autosport is P1 in the teams, with the third place driver, Weeks, bringing his TI Racing up to P2 in the team championship. Team Watson Racing third, and Ryder Engineering Esports is fourth. Getting ready to go green here. Coming off of corner number 4. Fielded under command of Julian, and well, he is wasting no time. Green flag.
There they go. Everybody got away clean. That was one of the things, Gary, that I had a little bit of concern about. We're going to see 3 wide toward the back. We're going to see 3 wide toward the back. Meanwhile, John Silva, Pedro Blevel going at it. That's for that's going to be for Dolly, 9th and 10th. Gary Lovern, let's see, Gary Lovern, Alexander Bonney, John Silva. Those guys are all going at it. Silva really slow on the bottom there. Checked up a bunch of people. There's 3 wide. They're going to go.
Wow.
They're going.
There's contact inside. 58. That is Chris Lewis and Gary Lovern.
Wow. It had to happen. They were what, 4 or 5 wide there.
And we'll try to get it from the Race First One airship, a little bit better view here. Car on the so the how this is going to go is Lovern is to the far left, Chris Lewis is the far right car, and Lewis is going to kind of cut across.
It looks like he just misjudged it, Gary.
Oof.
It looks like he was cutting across, and he just kind of misjudged the speed at which his car cut back to the right, got into Lovern there, just an innocent bystander. This track is wide, deceptively so. The racing surface is wide, the groove is not. Is that deceptively wide?
Deceptively. Well, yeah, I always thought about that. It was like 2 different. Of course, this is 2 different ends of the racetrack. 1 and 2. You can pretty much pick your line through there, at least in the IR18. I'm speaking from IR18 experience. Though really in 3 and 4, it's either on the bottom or a lane and a half off the bottom is your best way through there. That seems like it is a much tighter radius turn. It's not as banked as turn 1. And it just seems like it's a tale of two different worlds at that end of the racetrack. But the people that are really good at this track, the drivers that are really good at the track, those drivers are the ones that really can get through turns 3 and 4 with maximum efficiency and just make 1 and 2 work in terms of holding station with who they're battling with and then making the real gains in 3 and 4.
Yeah, it's imagine, most of our American-based fans are going to be familiar with Darlington. This track is almost identical to Darlington with the exception of it's smooth and it's about 3 lanes wider. Other than that, Darlington is a great analogy or a great analog for this place. So if you think about Darlington, same kind of a thing. The guys who are fast there are the guys who are fast through the shorter end of the egg. Or two in these cars, I was noticing in practice a little bit. You kind of do need to breathe the throttle through 1 and 2 as the tires get hot. The current cars, you don't. And so just that's going to be a thing. I think tire management's going to be a thing here. The top line in 3 and 4 can be quicker, but it'll also burn your right front off. And as an added bonus, the track banking here falls away from you.
Mm-hmm.
You don't climb out of the corner. It falls away, and it's a pretty abrupt transition on the top of the speedway. And so, if you're up on that high line exiting 3 and 4, it can kind of fall away from you and lose grip all of a sudden. We saw several people spin in practice doing that.
Yeah, that's one of the things we're going to watch out for is, of course, coming up to speed on in these cars on these laps right here that we're watching and when we'll come to green, and then of course coming off of pit road. Saw a number of cars having issues coming off of pit road. See John Silva dipping back to pit road, possibly to get topped off. There are tire limits here, 5 sets of tires, 1 on the car, 4 in the pits, so he's probably just looking for a top off. John Silva, Chris Lewis might have been repaired. He is underway. Though I'm not quite sure how that car is going to behave for him. Gary Lovern also underway. So, I don't know, do we have a fast repair in this one? I don't think we have a fast repair. So they must have got fast work done on those cars.
Yeah, and, if you don't hit very hard and you don't damage the suspension, if you don't need a toe link or something like that, these cars can be pretty durable. I'm on board with Chris Lewis right now. I don't see the wheel off, so... he could have come in if it was just some body work. He may have a drag penalty, but the wheel appears to be straight at least, so he may be good to go.
All right, getting ready to go green. Lights are out on the pace cars, getting ready to make its exit off of the race course field under the command of your pole sitter and leader Julian Altena. Coming off corner number 4, back underway, and Zach Mertz not letting him get away this easy this time.
No, he's not. You're going to want to try to tuck right up underneath him. He's going to want to kind of arc a little bit, turn 1, which he did. Follow him down the backstretch, try to get a good run into turn 3. Oh, Chris Lewis is on the apron. He's just about spun it out. He saved it. Holy Moses. Chris Lewis, save of the day thus far.
Well, we didn't get a chance to see it, but you called it. We're riding along with his... with one of his drivers, Zach Mertz, who is putting a press on Julian right now through turns 1 and 2. Starting to turn entry into 1 and 2, very high down to the white line, very bumpy down there. Julian's about a half a lane off the bottom, back out. Got plenty of room on corner exit. This is the part of the track that gets a little hairy, right into 3 and 4. You definitely have to downshift. You definitely have to use a little brake and use that acceleration pedal to work your way around. Back off the corner. That corner, turn 4 exit wall has a magnet in it.
Yes, it does. What I'd like to see, so if you're going to try to set up a pass here, Gary, you're going to ride and stay on board with Zach Mertz. And what you're going to want to see is a pass here is set up from the exit of turn 4, and then you execute that pass at the entrance to turn 3. And so what I'd like to see Zach do is get a little bit wider an entry into 3, a little bit wider out there so that he can power down sooner, kind of diamond the corner a little bit, and then read the nose out just a hair on Julian. He's following him through 1 and 2 pretty close in the tire tracks. I'd like to see him get out a little bit more so that he gets some clean air on that nose and really set it, and then be able to almost do it kind of like a slingshot move. the sixth gear in this setup here is very short, and so he's going to be on the chip pretty quick.
Yeah.
It's almost going to be a race to get to the chip. See, there he did it that time, right? So now watch this huge run. He's going to get down the back. He's going to have a big run down the back. Here he comes. Matt must be listening to me. He did it that time. See, I kind of tried to diamond the corner. He's going to get a big run off the corner here. That's perfect. And he gets that run. Okay.
Big battle here in the middle. And we got cars wrecking. Oh, Bonnie involved. Weininger involved.
Still wrecking.
Weekly gets around. Diggs involved.
For Johnny Diggs.
And I just cut back to there because there was a big battle back there that was raging for many laps. A lot of those cars were 3 and 4 wide, and Pedro Bibel is the biggest winner here.
He snuck through there on the bottom. Well, so it looks almost just like a victim in net code coming off of turn 4. You got Jonathan Diggs on the bottom, well, middle bottom, because Pedro is below him. Daryl Winiger and Johnny are just going to net code. If you look at it, there's probably 6 inches or so. Now they would have hit anyway, but net code kicks the whole thing off. He turns in front of Winiger, and that just starts this mess because these things we've talked about it. They don't change directions very well. Poor
Jonathan Diggs. Oof.
Poor Diggs, and poor Alexander Bonnie just has nowhere to go and clouts 15 spinning across the track. It's no fun right there. You don't have any way to react to that.
Watching from Bonnie's point of view.
It's like I say, there's just we've talked about this. There's if you're looking at that at home, you say, well, why didn't he just turn? Well, it's not that simple. So, we talked about in the current cars how the center of pressure can change, and you don't really have a lot of abrupt maneuverability. That is 10 times in this car because of the way the current car has most of its downforce generated from the floor. This car, most of the downforce is generated by those giant Coke bottle side pods. And so most of the downforce is aero on the top of the car, and it is really pitchy and sensitive to abrupt changes in acceleration and braking. The reasons it doesn't road race all that well. I mean, it can, but it doesn't do it well because it's very pitch sensitive. You start.
Looking in chat here, we got Rafi Eckert in here, the champion of the DW12 series. For VOR, and he's like, what, no rain here? There is actually a new a tab on ATVO, and gives you at least those of us in the booth the weather conditions right away. That's new, and that's very, very handy because often we don't really talk about the weather just because it's not evident in front of us, and that's a new way of bringing that up to our face. But we are going green, guys. Back underway at lap 14 of 130. We still have a long way to go.
Matt Wagner, good to see him. And
Wagner's in there. Got George from Lionheart in here. Nice.
Good to see those guys. Good to see those guys watching a race, supporting the channel, supporting each other. A lot of us race together in various series and various forms, and so good to see George and Matt. Hope they're enjoying the show, and we've got another snarl of cars back in the about 5th to 10th. It looks like Matthew Weeks leading that parade all the way back to John Silva, who's made it up to 10th.
Yeah, and 2 of those cars have stopped. Liam O'Sullivan, he had a qual ban, and he is back in 11th. He's worked his way up, and Silva is 12th. The rest of the cars kind of behind this group are going to be. I'm not sure. I think Weekly made it through. I don't think he is damaged, but he is taking a more cautious approach to the traffic in front of him. Lovern, I think, is damaged. And he is back in 14th. But different packs of cars and a battle for lead. Mertz under Julian in 3 and 4.
Can he get there?
And he got it. Julian let him on by. But Julian is making him work for it. Going to take a look at the inside. Going into 1.
Be careful, Julian. Be careful. It's slick down there.
Bumpy and slick.
Yes, it is. Right there on the white line. He makes it work. Now, going to be interesting to see is Mertz going to let him have it, or is he going to keep up the challenge? And what about Fyodor running third? He's got the best seat in the house, Gary.
And those cars in second and third are teammates.
They are indeed. Now, do you let your teammate? It looks like Fyodor might be a little bit quicker here. Do you sit there and let your teammate work him over, or do you? We got a lap car coming out of the pits here.
That's Bonnie.
Yeah, be careful. Stay on the bottom. Lift and let these guys
there
go.
He goes, good job. Well, we do know that the Asheville rooftop team, which is a TI Racing, they're primarily kind of restarting their IndyCar program. They are stock car racers, so I think Julian's giving them a little bit of a lesson here in dirty air. They're exploring now. These guys, of course, they are used to driving cars with no tools or minimum tools, so they're looking for another line, and that's how that pass happened. I think Julian might have overdrove turn 3 and 4 a little bit, and Mertz got the run on him, and Julian got it right back. I think these guys are searching for a slightly different line to run down Julian.
Yeah, you almost have to because if you run right behind the car in front like Mertz was doing, it just takes all the air off of the nose. These cars do have wings that are roughly the same size as those found on a 747 or an A380. Even still, though, they do require airflow over them to make them work. If you get right, we got a crash on the front. Crash on the front.
That is Seb Kinder. Kinder.
It looks like Pedro Blebel got a piece of that too. Holy Moses, Seb. Yeah.
Oh, Bybel into the wall, and Seb had no place to go. Oh, and wow, Edson Santos. We are going to watch. This is the move of the race so far. Let's go right to the roll bar. Oh, he did make contact. Oh, and it snaps back.
It did, but he snapped back. That would. I have no idea how he made that work.
It's the move. That's why I said it's the move of the race.
Well, he couldn't go low because he had the 80 down there. He had Weeks down there, so he couldn't exactly cut it low. So he just kind of has to thread the needle and somehow makes it work. The other thing that I was going to say, though, remember the conversation that you and I had with Julian before the race?
Yeah.
Gary? About Pedro and his line through 3 and 4?
Yep.
Can you tell the viewers what I told Julian?
Well, you said he was going a little too high through 3 and 4. And actually, let's go back and let's take a look at his line. Let's go back.
So what you want to do through 3 and 4, gang, is you want to get all the way down the line. You want to keep it down there a little bit longer than you think, because that's the narrow end of the egg.
Here it comes.
So it narrows up. Well, he comes off the bottom too quick, gets up in the high line, knocks down the wall, and gets that party started.
Well, I'll move this forward a little bit. Must happen to the next lap there.
Got a bunch of cars on pit lane,
yep,
too.
A bunch of cars coming to pit road. I think a lot of cars are going to, with all these extra cautions here, are going to try to stay out and make this first stint a lot longer. Here we go. Goes to the bottom, all the way to the bottom.
See how he comes off? Like, he starts coming off at the bottom in the middle of the corner where you want to hold it. You want to hold it on the bottom about a heartbeat or two after the apex to let you run off. Starts coming off like it's a regular oval turn, and just this is the narrow end of the egg. There's that.
This is again. He doesn't get down to the bottom as close as that, and that's what did it this time. Oof.
and poor Kinder nowhere to go. We've got rapid attrition in this race coming too, Gary. We've only got now. Alexander Bonnie just disconnected. We've only got 14 cars on the lead lap. Well, it'll be 13 because I don't think Pedro is going to get back out here. Jonathan Diggs is back out as we go back to green. Jonathan Diggs is back out 6 laps down, and he is up amongst the leaders.
We'll keep an eye
The
on
other
that.
thing that I wanted to, the other thing I wanted to say is I'm watching that 4 car right now. On my screen, he does not have a nose. So I don't watch that. He appears to be at speed, so that could just be a graphics glitch.
Yeah, that might be. I don't know, man. He had to really check up. I'm watching it too. Jonathan Diggs, no nose, and a car spinning. O'Sullivan. That's O'Sullivan.
How smart do those guys who just stopped look? By the way.
Yeah, and this is he had help from Edson Santos on they were 3 wide coming off the corner. Edson Santos gives him a little help on the go around there.
Yeah. So somebody needs to give a call down to Diggs and get that nose fixed. Santos, just kind of misjudges and there's 3 wide there too, and that's awful hard to hold. And of course, you've got John Silva at the top, who's probably not known for giving the most room of the guys who race these cars. And Edson turns down and gets Liam, and Liam O'Sullivan didn't do anything wrong there either. He was actually the one on the correct line. So there you go. I would assume I'm looking at the car of Edson Santos. Doesn't appear to have any damage. I don't see any scuff marks on it. Looks clean.
All right, well, we got to do a bit of a reset. It's just been going here. So Julian Altena is our leader. It looks like he's led pretty much every lap. There was a moment where who was racing him at the time? Mertz got around him, and I think actually led the lap, but Julian got the lead back going into 1. I think that might be the only official lead change. But Julian is going to stay out, and he is kind of going to the inside of the track to probably save on some fuel. Matthias Strauss is P2. He's worked his way up 4 spots. Now, this is the name that Julian, actually, I had to look this up just to make sure. Julian told me it said Tyne. T-I-J-N is said as Tyne, and his last name is said Van de Velde. Van de Velde. So Tyne Van de Velde. Yeah. Would not even thought of that in a million years. T-I-J-N saying Tyne, but thank you to our Dutch translation. And he is 3rd. Gary Lovern was involved in a wreck. I'm not sure how much damage has occurred to him. Again, you might have to check the rules. I don't think there's a fast repair, so he must have had some phantom damage done and got it fixed really quickly. He is up to 4th. Zach Mertz and Ford Odorzinko, these guys have started up front, and they've been with each other the whole time. They are on the same pit cycle. They all stopped momentarily a few laps ago. We'll get that up, but we're getting ready to go green here again very rapidly. We are having a bit of a slow start to the 130 lapper today, but we'll see. Hopefully we'll get a bit of a rhythm and watch these guys do a little bit more racing instead of a little bit more wrecking. So going green this time by to lap 28.
Absolutely. One of the favorite things is Julian gets the drop on Matthias Strauss and Tyne Van de Velde. The front 3 break away into kind of their own little pack. A distant 4th, Gary Lovern. The top 3 have not stopped. Gary Lovern is on his third set of Firehawks, by the way. Dream rises to the top, Gary. Matthias Strauss, very, very, very handy racer in these cars. Runs 2nd, avoiding the issues. And here's the other kind of thing that I wanted to touch on. We talked about getting on and off pit road, getting on and off the pit lane. Mertz from 2nd to 5th on that cycle. Matthew Weeks dropped a couple of spots. Guy's not as familiar getting out on and off a pit road in these cars.
Oh, here's a battle back here for fourth. Lovern, Mertz, Doshenko trying to find a way around, and they're just stacking up behind him. Here comes Mertz to the inside of Lovern.
Going to get him. Now, what they're going to do is they're going to be able to pin Gary. They're going to be able to pin Gary Lovern on the outside, and they're going to be able to they should be able to just freight train him down.
Caleb Weekly's coming through with them.
Let's hope they don't put it 3 wide. The 21's looking like he wants to give it a shot. Ooh,
yeah, that's like,
awful close. And of course, John Silva, he's looking to make it 3 wide at any opportunity here. But he is all over the back of Gary Lovern. He's going to swing it to the outside maybe in turn 1. No. Guy's discretion is the better part of valor there.
And this is the site of a very famous Lionheart Retro Series race where at one point I think they were 6 wide going into a certain corner. And I don't think the sim has a recording for you're 6 wide and you're in the middle because no one knew. There was a big, they wadded those up, but that was a very, the next time they came back to race here, at least the one that I was involved in, the Retro Series, was nothing like that one after they changed that setup.
Alan,
Weekly to the inside of the Doshenko.
You do some Elite Racing League stuff now, and so over there we call that Chad wide.
Oh.
We call that Chad wide. Something that's kind of, as we watch this battle, which is absolutely ferocious. Lovern, now that the tires have come up to temp, has settled in behind Mertz, and so kudos to Gary because he's settled in behind Mertz, and now he looks like he's going to try to get racy to the outside of it.
And of course, a very happy St. Patrick's Day to everybody in the United States. Today is the 17th, and Lovern's sporting the green car. I told everyone that they should paint up their cars to be green and festive, and that the green car myth would be null and void today. But he's the only person that, well, he didn't take the offer because he's always in the green car. But showing the luck of the Irish in that, and maybe we should call him Gary McLovern today.
No, he's given that thing a really good ride. I would like to point out that I live in South Bend, Indiana, and so the home of the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, as it were, and my wife could not find a green shirt to wear today, such as her lack of wardrobe selection. She had to borrow one of my football jerseys so that she wouldn't get summarily pinched as soon as we got to Mass this morning. It was a lot of fun. One of the things I kind of wanted to touch on now that we've got kind of a lull where we're going green, Gary, how they've wanted to have these double headers with road courses and ovals?
Yeah.
This would have been that perfect facility to do that. Because unlike Indianapolis or any other kind of a roval where you have to change the facility, here there's zero work required.
Yeah.
Go between the two tracks. They call it Twin Ring because there's an oval and a road course, but they're not connected. And so, I always wondered why they didn't do that here. This would have been the absolute perfect place to do it.
My guess is that they had a hard enough time getting crowds there. Getting crowds there for 2 races might have been a bit difficult. My understanding, this is not my understanding, I've actually seen it on the map. It is out in the middle of nowhere, on top of a mountain.
It's true. If I recall, the capacity here is not limited by the available seating. It's limited by the available transportation to and from the facility. So like you go back and you watch the old kart races and the old IRL races here. You'll see the place is half empty. That's because it's that hard to get people out here.
Yeah. And this is in a whole region of Japan. There's a number of different test tracks in there. If you look at this facility from a satellite view and you kind of zoom out, you'll start to see other test tracks, other ovals, other facilities that are out kind of in the middle of nowhere where eyes can't see things happening as easily. And this is kind of that part of Japan where a lot of that stuff can be hidden from prying eyes in a country known for, high population density.
Fuji Speedway is like that too, where it's on top of a mountain, in the middle of nowhere. Suzuka, a little bit closer population centers, but this is Honda's facility. This is their test facility. This is what they use it for. This is why they built the joint in the first place, is to be able to test their stuff. And so, but you're absolutely right. Looking kind of on our screen now. This is Weekly, Silva, Kinder, Lover, and Matthew Weeks all in a snarl.
Yeah, and they're starting to get a little bit strung out and patient. Although, never mind, Silva right in the back. Here. Yeah, Silva right in the back of Weekly.
No yellow thus far.
No yellow, but Silva punted Weekly. I'm not sure what happened. Let's go back and let's see what happened here.
Well, I don't think you called it exactly right. John Silva just drove in the back of Caleb Weekly going into turn 1. Away before Caleb goes. He alt F4 and got out of the sim. That's why there's no yellow. Amazing to me that John Silva can hit before Caleb Weekly that hard. There is not a mark on that 40.
Yeah, it all snapped back into place. So the Red Dragon entry there, move Silva up to 6th with a bit of a forceful move there on Caleb Weekly, who is since punched out. We are now down to 11 cars on the lead lap. Still a long ways to go. Battle back here between Santos and Gary Lovern.
Now you've got Altena, Strauss, and Endeveldi. They're 43 laps on their current scent. John Silva just tapped the wall off of 4. They're on their 43 laps on their current scent. These guys are going to have to stop. I know we've had a lot of
caution.
A lot of caution. But, I thought fuel here was going to be somewhere around 45 to 50 laps. So I would expect the top 3 at least be in for their fuel stops here very shortly, and you will lose a lap and change coming to pit road on under green here.
Yeah, Liam in chat, not happy. I don't blame you. And then his next comment there, I would imagine that's going to be looked at by race control. I would imagine that will be looked at by race control. So,
yeah, and that's one of the great things about a private league versus official races. In an official race, you can file a protest, and God bless the stewards, they do. I would shudder to imagine the stuff that goes through NIM's office on a weekly basis that those poor people have to look at. But here, justice is a lot more swift. We had
did you put in a protest for the Monday, the Tuesday race that you were in with us? It looks like the guy that wrecked you, and then he thought it was your fault. He tried dooring you a couple times while trying to get back up to speed. Julian coming to pit road.
Up right on schedule.
He's using the backstretch. There must be a rule for backstretch entry. This is one of the more challenging pit roads to get on.
Yes, the apron down there is very slick. And
it is. Yeah, very, very slick.
This is not the easiest car to get on and off of.
So Julian with his teammate on pit road. This is a scheduled stop. They're probably going to go down a lap. Matthias Strauss now, he is coming to pit road. So now we turn it over to the stock car guys of Doshinko and Mertz, who are now 1 and 2, and they stopped on lap 23.
Yeah, so split strategies. Here's the thing. Just the doing the math in my head. That stop at lap 26 is going to be handy for these guys, because if they get a yellow here, they're going to be able to trap probably the fastest car a lap down. So that's why you do it. But the flip side of that is they are still going to have 2 more stops. Whereas I think Julian and them guys, so we're at 130 lapper.
Yeah.
There is a possibility with another couple of yellows that Julian Van de Velde and Tia Strauss can make it on 1 more.
So the let me put you in their shoes though. Four-door and Zach, those are stock car guys. Are they trying to apply a stock car pit type strategy in an IndyCar race? Whereas Julian knows, who's more of an IndyCar driver, regular IndyCar driver, the longer I go, the better I am in these things?
I think it comes down to track position and where you are when those cautions fly. So, if I'm in the back of this deal, if I'm Fyodor, and I was at the back of this deal anyway, or certainly not leading it, probably would have pitted at the lap 23 yellow just to do something different. These cars with the dirty air, if you're out front, you're going to build a gap as we're seeing Fyodor and Mertz build about a second gap over Seb Kinder and John Silva, who have another second over Santos. Right, like
all these cars stopped at lap 23.
Right, so you're able to build up kind of a gap. If you're leading a thing, so at this point there's no real right or wrong answer. It's going to depend on whether or not they cycle through and where a caution flies to determine who made the right or wrong decision. Right now, you don't know. I probably wouldn't have stopped
early. You would have stayed out.
If I was in the top 5, I probably wouldn't have stopped. If I was behind that, I probably would have.
Okay.
It's because there's no right or wrong answer. The other thing is, stop, you put yourself back in the mess. And sometimes sometimes this not being in the mess, we're 54 laps into this race, Gary.
54, yep.
We've only got 12 cars out on the speedway. So, if you're up front, you're safer certainly than you are in the back. Didn't work for me Tuesday night, but that's normally the thing. If you're up in the top half of the field, usually you're safer.
Checking chat, Chris Lewis, beautiful turns 1 and 2, like it should be. Let's see, Matt Wagner. So it was the only one that's getting to the bottom of the track. And let's go take a look at Silva here. Well, actually, we got a battle for the lead brewing here as Doshinko, or Mertz now gets around Doshinko.
Those two are teammates, and that could be a planned thing for fuel. I know I mentioned it before, but it's worth mentioning again. These cars get to the chip themselves, and so the car that's running second, if you're going to draft tightly like that, can really absolutely save a lot of gas.
Yeah.
And that could be what they're doing.
Watching Silva getting right down to the bottom, yeah.
Now remember, it's slick
little yeah. And he a little bit of a wobble coming off of 4 there.
Now the thing that also happens he ran wide through 1 and 2 there. He's just trying to get some
Lovren on pit road, and he has a banged up right side of his car.
Yeah. You saw if you can get right down to that white line, you're in that dirty air, you can get some air on that if the back wing is the size of a 747, it's a 737 wing on the front of these things. If you can get some air onto that left front wing there, it really, really can help turn the car, especially if it's on the bottom where it's naturally free anyway. Can really help you out. Lovren still in pit lane. They're going to get to Mertz here.
Ooh.
Oh boy.
Yeah, getting got the Brazilian clear there and took it. Here comes Seb Kinder.
So back to kind of something you said earlier to me about Tuesday. We're just gonna file that one away.
Ah.
And
Doshinko, I think, might have kissed the wall.
Yeah, he got awful close. Now that one's filed away. As you know, race drivers have memories that are worse than elephants, and so we'll file that away and just think about it for future reference. How's that?
Well, let's talk about what Liam says, that this needs a fast repair. Back when I first joined VOR, and I was in this before doing broadcasting, I remember I would argue to Julian after doing hundreds and hundreds of laps at Texas Motor Speedway for a race that in testing, that only to be taken out on lap 18, that a fast repair would be nice. Really, a lack of a fast repair impacted my driving to the point where you just can't be aggressive all the time. You need to let things develop, and you need to let things go a lot of times. I often look back, and I'm not a big school person of NASCAR racing, but Mark Martin. I always remember Mark Martin early in races waving cars on by because they were faster than him at the time. But where was Mark Martin at the end of the race when the time came to pay, the big check for the winner? And
do you really want me to answer that? Do you really want?
Well, he was normally back. Normally, he was back up front again with as just being very patient. And that's kind of how I developed my racing strategy. And this is try to be patient, allow things to happen in front of you, let the people make the aggressive mistakes that wreck each other, and kind of move up the standings that way. But it's not always possible in every case. And I can't say I've had 100% luck in that strategy in every single race I've run. But it does impact the way that I do drive these cars, or any kind of car going forward, especially if it's a no fast repair, is I have to be smarter than the next guy. That's really the big thing is. I think sometimes the fast repair allows the idiots to come back out and be an idiot one more time. I think in most cases.
And I think, the thing we need to remember too.
Doshinko on pit road.
Wagner said it in chat is, we got to kind of remember too. This is probably the most international series.
Oh! And he might have he barely missed knocking off his front wing.
Definitely lost a lot of time, but this is probably the most international IndyCar series there is of the top level ones in the sim. You look at Elite, that's mostly an American series. IES is mostly, the Catalyst series is mostly an American series. Lionheart has some international participation, but again, mostly Yanks. This is probably the only series that you'll see, the only major IndyCar series you'll see in the sim, and this is definitely one of the major ones. It's the only one that you're going to see Americans in the minority.
Yeah.
It's the only one you're going to see Americans in the minority, and not only that, Europeans are the majority. Very much so in the series. And so, we always got to kind of remember netcode is going to be a thing. This is on a European server, by the way.
Matthew Weeks on pit road, your leader. Julian, it's going to turn it back over to Julian Altina. So Julian, he did not need a caution to happen during that stint, and he got what he needed, and it's going to help him and his teammate Tin.
Now let's see what the gap is. I want to see what the gap is for Julian and these guys.
Okay, Weeks is down. He's rolling. Here comes Julian, passing him on pit road. The undercut has always been powerful here. Always been powerful here.
It's going to be mega. We gotta see what it is. Matthew Weeks is down and away and rolling. Julian roaring off a turn 4 here.
Weeks is back up onto the racetrack. That's not only coming off the button is a bit of a challenge here, but even bringing the car back on the racetrack can be a little bit slippery. But he navigated that one well.
Until you get to the cones, I don't feel safe. Though Julian has retaken the lead, and he is...
So he is 20 laps into his current stint. He, Chin, and Strauss, they're all basically on the same strategy. Strauss pitted a lap behind them. There he is, all by himself in turns 3 and 4.
So how powerful was the undercut? Julian and
they're let's do it by a gap. So they're 9 seconds ahead of Doshinko and Mertz, who stayed out the longest.
So they're 3 seconds ahead of Strauss.
Yeah.
That's kind of his MO. He's very much like you and me. He's going to race the pavement, run his own deal, and when it's time to go, he's going to go. Not time to go yet. So he's just going to comfortably sit where he's comfortable, his own little bubble with nobody around to hurt him.
Drive to survive.
Those guys pulled out a 9-second gap for that, and we still have an equal number of pit stops to go. Now, the guys that just pitted are going to have a shorter fill on that last stop,
and they're all in a line saving on each other right now. Well, with the exception of Doshinko, who's leading the pack, but Mertz, Silva, Kinder, all kind of in a tight pack right now. We got a third car kind of back there. I'm not sure who that is, but missing a nose. That might be Diggs, and it's Diggs. So Diggs is still going with no nose.
Surprised they haven't. I mean, I don't know. Did the Dallara parts truck run out?
I don't know.
I can't believe that they wouldn't have fixed that. Very odd.
But Weeks is not that far away from joining this battle if he can catch up to it. He's well out of the draft envelope, but if he drives some clean lines, he might be able to chip into that a little bit. And then here comes Edson Santos, that leaner energy entry. Of course, they won the team championship in the DW12 series, which will pick back up here in a couple weeks at the start of April. Be me and Kyle Clinworth will be calling the action on that Fridays at 3 p.m.
Interested to hear old Clindy call one.
He did a pretty good job. He did a real good job.
I'm sure he does. I'm sure he's far more competent than I am.
He's way more competent than me. I'm not exactly setting the bar very high there when I say that. So.
Oh, I mean, you and me, the combined IQ of 15.5 according to our wives. I mean, I'm sure Clindy's smarter than that. Just watching this, I can't help but feel, Zach Mertz is now past Fiodor, and he's going to lead that train for a minute. The thought occurred to me: if those two are teammates, do you have one be the sacrificial lamb and go flat so the guy can
Silva
save?
looking at the inside?
That makes me nervous. Just for netcode reasons. Again, European server, Brazilian driver, one car, American in the other.
Well, and I don't know what it's like at the top splits for the American stock car drivers, so I'm not quite sure. There's O'Sullivan to the top side. He's just trying to get some laps in. He's well out of the way. But I don't know what it is for the stock car drivers in the top splits in terms of what it is like for international participation. But, I mean, do they have a lot of the Brazilian drivers? The Brazilian drivers do bring a certain other level of intensity to the racetrack. I think a lot of that has to do with culture, yes, and also has a lot to do with Ayrton Senna and the way that he was like, look, if I'm not passing people, I'm not doing anything. So I got to be out there hitting it hard every single lap, and that's a really good strategy, and that applied well for many drivers going forward. But when you get into sim racing, especially when you have netcode involved, it does open the door for the occasional oops. And we talked about, like, right there's the Brazilian clear as he slides in.
Look, I think there are two important things to remember when you run in the sim. The first is that there was only one Senna and none of us are in.
Yes.
The second thing is that how do you want to treat this? I actually had this discussion with Jeff Green, who is originally from my part of the world, down southwestern Indiana, northwestern Kentucky.
Silva gets around that. Now Silva is out in front of this group, and can he get away?
He is going to pound it as hard as it can.
Yes, he will.
And that has been, that might be, by the way, the best thing that could have happened to Mertz, because Silva's going to go full kill. He's going to be able to hang out behind Silva. And we'll see.
The point I was getting to is Mertz and Dojinko used to that Brazilian driving style in their regular races that they are in. Like when you look at the lineup in an IndyCar race, whether we fixed or a league, and you see the Brazilians, you know what they're going to bring. That is a known quantity. You must expect it. But when they race against the Brazilians, do they realize it's the same thing, or are they just like, it's a Brazilian?
No, I would suspect not. For one, the NASCAR servers are dominantly American.
Dojinko, Mertz, I think, way up high.
Yeah, he missed the corner down.
Yeah, Weeks is now on him.
So the thing that I would say to that is, that code isn't as big of an issue in stock cars because they can touch. Yeah, you run inside of a guy.
Point taken.
You run into side of a guy at Bristol, and it doesn't really matter. You can bang wheels and you can make door-to-door contact that doesn't hurt anything.
Point taken.
These cars, you touch wheels and somebody's going for. Somebody might be setting an altitude record. It's a completely different thing. So, yes, they're probably not used to that particular culture of driving. They're also probably not as sensitive to the netcode issues.
Edson to the inside. Take a look on Kinder.
Now, I will say this. Not all Brazilians do use that Brazilian clear. Gianna Pinheiro is an example of a guy who does not drive that way. Neither really does Edson Santos. Edson, very calm guy, very measured guy, very calculating guy. He drives more in line with Mearsian style that you and
Mearsian style. Well, I mean, give it up. I mean, he and his other teammate Rafi Santos, they drove very, very well, and again, in a series and in a car that lends itself to a lot of net code. Hey, just real quick, while we have everyone here, just help us keep the positive momentum of IndyCar's return back to the channel. If you enjoy race first coverage of the VOR IR05 IndyCar series and respect the stream, please do us a solid. Make sure you support us by subscribing, and while you're at it, smash like and click the bell so you don't miss out on future race first iRacing broadcasts, including tomorrow. Murph and I are going to be calling ISRA Trucks, the one and only truck series we have on the channel, and we're going to be going to Michigan. So we've been talking a little bit about Michigan, and we're going to be having Truck Series Michigan tomorrow at now a later start at 9:35 p.m.
Something that I was going to finish saying was I had this discussion with Jeff Green at the Elite Winter Derby, and I don't think it's unique to Brazilians, and so you can tell the guys who in the sim that race cars versus the guys who do this purely as a gamer. So I raced go-karts as a kid, so I know what happens when you hit somebody, right? Jeff Green, NASCAR Busch Series champion, he knows what happens when you hit other cars, right? A lot of the people that are in iRacing now, a lot of the newer subscribers, and if you're out there listening, this is not if you're a subscriber to iRacing and you're listening to this and you've never driven a race car, this is not meant to impugn you, but it is instructive, which is I treat this as if I am racing a real car.
Yes.
Jeff Green treats it as if he is racing a real car. You can tell the guys who never have approaching this purely as a game. So I think that gamer versus racer attitude is more of it than any sort of a nationality thing. Does that make sense?
Yep. And if you're watching this for the first time and you think you'd like to give this a shot, we do have a link in the description of how you can join iRacing, and you can see you in a future lineup, whether it be IR05, DW12, IR18, IR01, whatever your choice.
Julian coming to pit road. Julian's saying he's coming to pit road here.
Right.
Speaking of lineups, you'll probably see me in a police lineup later. Anyway, Altina headed for pit lane. At least
he went 40 laps. So Strauss is staying out. And we have Silva and that group's now joining, passing. Altina is still on pit road. So I don't think he brought the Chin's down on the way. Chin started earlier.
know what this tells me, Gary?
And now Chin's going to actually join this group.
What Julian coming to pit lane on lap 89 tells me
What?
is 1 lap short.
And here comes Julian off of pit road.
Don't spin the thing out down there. Careful. Be careful. You know he's pushing it.
Yeah. Got to make sure you don't cross the lines any sooner than you need to. And now we have Julian is at the tail end of the lead lap here.
I'm going to say this. The smartest thing that Julian Altena could do right here is to pull over and let this group go past him. He's not going to want to do it. That would be the smartest thing he could do. Because he needs to save a lap if you... Unless he figures when they all stop, he can just, I don't know, clutch and coast around maybe. But the smartest thing he could do is get to the back of this pack and run about half throttle.
Oh.
Silva and this gang, they're going to be due in here in they're going to be doing in about 15
Matt Wagner's like, he won't do it. And now we have Fordo DeShinko says, you know what? I've had enough of waiting. I'm going to try to follow through. But in the meantime, that's not going to help him any because he is not being aided by the draft of the car in front of him. Julian now kind of can move between the two lines. Oh.
Well, and so, there you go. I mean, Fyodor, he got down there, and Julian has the preferred line, so he got the run. He had to take it, and then just he couldn't make it stick. Oh golly, let's see, who's that?
So Julian pitted at lap 89. And so Liam's saying 40 laps max on a stint.
I'm gonna say the raciest guy in this deal right now is Matthew Weeks. That guy is staying in the gas. He's up to third. He's gotten around Zachary Mertz.
Very patiently, he's worked his way up. Very patiently, not aggressively at all. There's Julian to the high side, letting Silva by. Now he's tucked in. So Julian is now down a lap, but he's still fighting.
He's down. He might be down 2 laps now.
No, one lap.
Okay, yeah, he needs to...
Ooh, Edson Santos missing a front wing.
I'm going to go back and figure out what happened to Edson. But Julian, I get why he might have... I get why he might have wanted to stay on the lead lap. But...
and coming in the pit road. Just locks him up. Inside wall, outside wall, boom, done.
There's a little bit too much rear bias, and around she goes. So, but yeah, I mean, Julian must have been listening, and he must have heard Matty Wagner say, "Hey, he won't do it." So,
well, Wagner's been saying for a while, watch this guy right here. He's been picking Silva.
Yeah. Yep. You got a big time battle brewing behind John Silva, though. That appears to be Weeks, Fyodor, and Mertz, and that whole crew. Weeks is now second. He's made the move. He's made the move into second place while we were expounding on Julian's strategery. I wouldn't put it past Matthew Weeks. Matthew Weeks is a known quantity in the stock car world. He is probably a road to pro level driver. He's won the Elite Daytona 500. This is a very cagey veteran oval racer. Maybe just learning these cars, but he's a smart cat. It would not surprise me to see old Weeks just stalk down John Silva, because we're getting close to 30 to go, and the pay window is getting ready to turn on the open lights.
That's right. We are coming up to lap 100 again. Thanks for joining us. Make sure to smash the like button there. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. good race going on. Slow start, good race, a lot of strategy playing out here at the end. Watching a battle for the lead on a different pit strategy. Silva and Weeks, Mertz P3, Dojinko P4, Weeks, Mertz, Dojinko, all on the same team. Taking a look to the inside. Not going to be able to make that pay off.
Yeah, he had to get out of it to get out of it just to make it stick, and John Silva keeps going. Now Weeks, Diggs, Santos.
Weeks coming to pit road. Weeks coming to pit road.
Yes, he is. So these guys should be due anytime. They are not going to have any problems with fuel. Matter of fact,
Who else is on pit road? Someone else is on pit. Oh, that's Jonathan Diggs. Okay.
Now these guys might be able to short fill it a little bit.
And Matt Wagner is the sitting on the pit box here for John Silva, telling him to pit for the last 5 laps or so, and Silva is continuing to make laps.
He said Weeks is smart. Yes, he's. I'm the chief steward for the Elite Racing League Cup Series, and I've watched him be extremely smart. He may not know the car very well, but he is a very talented and intelligent racer.
Well, no matter the car, an undercut's still an undercut.
There he goes.
Right?
He's spinning down the apron, Gary.
Oh no!
Spinning down the apron. He didn't hit anything. He's going to try to flip it back around. It is not going to trigger a caution. He's going to get it rolling, and Julian breathes a sigh of absolute relief. Doesn't, depending on whether or not he has enough fuel.
So let's just watch what happened. Actually, this ride, we could probably hear exactly what happens.
He
they're into that low power range. Whoop, right around. And unfortunately, that's if there's not a caution, this is a chance for Weeks to win. Is probably right out the window now.
I was watching the Lionheart documentary last night, and one of the things that talked about was how detail-oriented Dan was, and I think anybody who's an IndyCar fan knows that. They brought out one of his notebooks, right? And so his notes would have been from this era of car. And Susie
won. I think he won his first race here.
Did indeed. One of the notes was about the power band, and he says, at 15% throttle, I feel like I have 15% power. At 25% throttle, I feel like I have 60% power. So that's kind of what, there's a very fine line in these cars, especially the newer cars are so much more forgiving than this one. So much more forgiving than this one, because this car almost the power band is very narrow, but when you hit it, it's a light switch. Make sense?
Yep, and that's very evident. And Silva to pit road. Oh, did he speed? Did he speed now?
He didn't. He was awfully doggone close.
So now this turns the lead over to Seb Kinder, who last stopped on lap 66. So he's 40 laps into his current stint. He is coming to pit road now. So that's going to turn it over to Julian as Seb blinks out.
Wasn't Seb Kinder in an accident not too long ago?
He was, and I'm not sure how these accident cars, unless there was a fast repair involved, I'm not sure how these accident cars are coming back to life. But Julian getting around Silva.
You know what? Silva did not speed. He got it down. So the speed limit here is 50 on pit
Strauss
road.
Around Silva. So what that did on pit road is just cost him a bunch of time.
He got down. Speed limit's 50. He was at 54 when he hit the cone. As he half
Here
spun
comes Kinder.
He half spun through the pit zone, or the first timing box. As Seb Kinder comes in.
Oh, Kinder, same thing!
Oh no! Stays on the apron. As long as he stays down there, he's not gonna.
It's almost like you gotta be in second gear when you come off that button, or be hitting second gear when you come off that button.
I was leaving in third gear in practice. So there's a dip. There's a dip, a bump in the racetrack right there, and it happens. It happens right as you change gear. So when I was getting off the button in practice, just making laps, I was exiting. As soon as I got off the button, it was
Okay.
I passed second and the third.
Let's talk about what possibilities. Can Julian make it now? He is 19 laps onto his current stint. We are at lap 109 now, so you could do another 20 laps. He might be short. Now, Chin, right behind him, is 21 laps into his current stint. He probably is going to be short unless he's getting the benefit of riding in that draft behind Julian right now. The one that this might actually get the win here is Matthias Strauss. Right there. If he could hold off John Silva.
Hold on, I'm riding on. Huge coast phase from Julian. I'm not actually so certain that he didn't pop the clutch and turn the car off.
He is right here. Listen.
Listen. Ow. Julian is doing absolutely everything possible. I guarantee you he's probably only running.
Here, listen. On the clutch.
On the clutch, shuts the motor off, pops the clutch, starts the motor right at the 150-yard marker. The only other place in person I've seen do that is Alex Van de Zand at Gateway. And it's not as though Julian is running uncompetitive times. That last lap, 187.2. Pace here is about 190, 191. So,
well, let's bring that up. Let's bring up the last lap miles per hour. And Silva, 189.3. He is cruising. Van de Velde looks like he is at 186, so he is kind of doing the same things too. Strauss has now moved up to P2. We missed that while we were watching Julian. There's a battle right there. Oh my goodness, guys! All three together. Actually, yep. that is all three of them together. 3 wide down the backstretch now.
And they're all chasing. They're gaining about 3 or 4 tenths a lap on Julian, which
high side Silva sends it. Almost wheel contact.
Strauss doing the weave down the front straight, deny the draft. John Silva just posted the fastest lap of the race, 28.814.
Yep, 28, and that's 189 flat. 189 flat.
He still hasn't gotten himself around Matthias Strauss. Meanwhile, Julian.
We can still hear. We can hear Julian in front go as we were watching this camera shot. The mics picked up Julian going to the clutch.
Oh, he's got to. He doesn't have a choice. If this ever wasn't the story of the tortoise and the hare, Gary, I don't know what is.
Now maybe then the team orders in is Julie tells Tin to sit there, or Tyne, and sit there and say race Silva as hard as you can. Race Silva as hard as you can.
Well, and that could be too. Although I think Tyne is doing the same thing as Julian is, because Tyne came in a lap before Julian did.
Yeah.
He's even more critically short.
Tyne, yep.
Now Tenna. A yellow. So no more fuel save.
Not sure. I think Gary Lovern finally he finished that car off. And he was battling with one of the Asheville rooftop guys, and he got in the back. It was a 4-door. So let's see what happens here.
Just closing right off of turn 4, and
he gets punted. Oof.
That's an easy thing to do. Here, off of turn 4, Texas, turn 2 is another one. You got to be really careful about closing rates. When you got the different lines, and Gary, just unfortunately, he's up on the top and he spins the rear tires up a little bit. I don't see how Fyodor had anywhere to go there. But let's reset it, because Julian, does he now have enough petrol?
I'm going to say he probably does. I mean, he's riding the clutch at the moment.
I wish he'd use a tear off. That was something I was going to say earlier. For those of you who run the like me, when I got in here today, I ran about 15, 20 laps, and the visor was completely. I mean, it was blurry.
That's if there's one button that people forget to map, if it's not push to pass on road courses, it's the tear off button on your visors that you have on the 12 and the IR05
for cars. I mean, I run midgets and I run dirt midgets and sprints sometimes, so I've got a button mat because it's critical there. But yeah, who doesn't have the tear off button mat? Does that play? I mean, all these little things, all these little advantages that guys with experience have that guys that don't may not think about. We talk about NASCAR guys. They even know what a tear off is.
Well, it's on their windshield,
right? But they wouldn't think to put them on their helmets. It reminds me. Wagner, of course, he knows what a tear-off is. I actually have a set of Oakley goggles that I wear to dirt races sometimes, especially to go to Terre Haute. It can get kind of dirty. Sprint cars on a half mile is always a good time.
And we're getting ready to go.
So green. I have the Oakley goggles with tear-offs.
Ooh. Getting ready to go green. I imagine Julian is going to bring him down slow. No, he takes off, and he's going to go try shoot for that biggest lead possible. 30-lap-old tires versus 13-lap-old tires from John Silva.
That may make a difference here for a lap or two, but once they get hot, I don't think there's that much of a difference.
Coming to 10 to go here.
Julian was only a lap short, so I think that caution saves him. I think he should be good to roll as hard as possible now. The other thing is cautions breed cautions, right, Gary?
Yeah, they sure do. And let's take a look at the that interval between Julian and Strauss is 5 tenths. Back to Silva, 3 tenths. Back to 10, or excuse me, Tyne, 2 tenths back to Tyne. Mertz, there's a closing battle right there with Mertz.
Oh, Julian's not saving anymore, so that tells me he's all good on fuel. He drove that thing really deep into turn 3 that time. Just sets the fastest lap of the race.
Yep, 28.7. We'll go ahead and give that to you here right now. 28.7, a 190.4. Strauss just did a 190.3. Silva did a 190.4 as well.
Yep. Silva was 0.02 of a second slower than Altena the last time by. These boys are getting after it. Now Silva goes purple, 28.669. Pay window is opening at Twin Ring Motegi. Lap
191.1. 199, 191.1.
Business is picking up, brother.
But he's having a hard time getting around Strauss. Strauss, this is a challenge of this track. You could put your car in many different positions. There he does, bit of a weave. That's not a block.
No,
Silva to the inside. And now Silva is in direct contact with the leader. We've been waiting for this pretty much the entire second half of the race as we saw this starting to develop now.
It's not exactly all clear. Strauss
is still in the battle.
He's right on the gearbox at 41. Getting to Julian here is one thing. Passing him is going to be quite a different thing. The other thing with that weaving business is
scrubs.
You can zing and zag yourself and leave the bottom open and get yourself past down here.
Yep. And Julian with the weave down the backstretch. 7 to go.
Silva's not really. I mean, he's not really chopping. He's gained maybe a tenth since he made that pass.
Yeah, Silva back to 4 tenths. As he's now trying to defend with the weave as well. 4 tenths.
It's going to be the saving grace for Julian if he's to go on and win, is that John Silva has to contend with Matthias Strauss. Now they seem to have separated a little bit.
I think he's going to get there. 3/10.
He was a full 10th.
Julian's doing much better through 3 and 4.
Out.
A minute of the weave down the front stretch again.
5 to go.
5 to go. There's other battles on the racetrack. You see a group of 4, 2x2x2, down going into 1 and 2 behind, but the battle is here.
This is for the front three spots and all the money, and this is where we want to do it. Now I agree, Matt Wagner, our man in the chat. I agree. He's gonna get there.
2/10.
Julian,
4 to go.
776 for Julian to a 747 for
More weaving.
Silva, of course. They're trying to break the draft. At least Julian's not going down all the way down to pit road like Joseph Newgarden did at Indianapolis. Which they have now outlawed, thankfully.
The shot coming right at you. 3 to go. I think you're right. I think these tires have equalized a little bit.
Julian in 801 to a Silva 850 that time, so Julian just a hair faster. They're pretty stable at 310.
Oh, look at that group behind him coming off of 2. There's a heck of a battle for 5th, 4th, 5th, and 6th going on right now. But we cannot leave this battle for the lead.
Yeah, you can't. And those guys back there, good grief. There's good grief. They've got Fyodor pinned on the bottom, it looks like, but they were wide for a minute there on the back. A caution right now would, of course,
in the race.
That would end the race, and Altena would go to victory lane as they weave and snake. And
2/10. 2/10 now through 3 and 4. Julian getting through 3 and 4 better, extending the lead almost to 3/10 on corner exit. Here comes a white flag. 1 more to go here at Motegi. We're coming down to the wire just like we did last week and last race we had at Michigan. Can Silva do it? He's got the cleaner air in the bottom. He's got a good run coming off the corner. Julian doing the block.
Here he comes now. Matt Wagner said it. He's going to try to drive in high up here and pin Julian on the bottom. Can he get there?
Julian staying high. Julian staying high. He's going to ride him all the way down to the white line off of exit 4, and Julian is going to win 2 in a row here in the IR05 series.
Yes, he does. John Silva, a very fine second place finish. Matthias Strauss comes home 3rd. But an amazing finish. 2 different strategies. 2 different styles for sure. Sebastian Kinder, it's 4th out of that absolute mess of cars. He went around the 42 of Zachary Mertz on the outside coming to the flag. Mertz going to be 5th. Tyne Van de Velde 6th. Matthew Weeks 7th after he spun on pit exit. Fyodor Dovzhenko is 8th. Final car on the lead lap, and we did not say his name the entire day, but Gary kept his nose clean. He stayed out of trouble, didn't put a wheel wrong. Alexander McBean.
Yeah, I like the effort. I like the effort.
He was the slowest qualifier because Lewis did not set a time in Liam O'Sullivan, the qualifying ban. Alexander McBean, fine drive tonight.
7 spots.
Yeah, Edson Santos rounds out your top 10, 2 laps down.
So let's give you that real quick. It's Altena, Silva, Strauss, your podium. Kinder, Mertz, Van de Velde is 6th there. Weeks, Dosico, Bean, Santos, your top 10. Diggs, Lovern, O'Sullivan, Weekly, Blybell, your top 15. And rounding out the remainder of the 18-car field, Boney, Weininger, and Lewis. Your biggest gainer on the day, it's Tyne. And it was up 9 spots. And keep in mind, he was up at the top 3, so he was in double digits for most of the race, but he finishes up 9 spots there with his finish in 6th as that beehive of a group from 4th on back just swallowed him up.
Yeah, and look, I mean, I love these races. You can't say enough about the dueling strategies. Probably the fastest car finished is 2nd. A guy that always finishes on the podium, comes home third. Sebastian Kinder, fourth, and that's a fine IndyCar driver. Mertz, right? Stock car aces. He rounds out the top five. Just a fun race.
Let's get into the interview room and see who would like to talk.
Well, I'd imagine our winner might have some
I'm sure he does. But there is Matthias Strauss. We'll go ahead and bring him on up. We don't see Silva or Julian yet. So let's bring them on up. Hey, Matthias, congratulations. P3. Looked there a little bit at the end. Without the caution, were you going to be able to make it, or was it going to be close?
Well, it was going to be close, but I was in the green, so I was good on fuel, but it would be super tight. So if the yellow didn't came, I might have caught Julian, but Van der Velde did a good job holding me and Silva off when we caught him, and when he realized he wouldn't be able to make it.
Go ahead, Murph.
Yeah, so Seb, fine run to third. Always enjoyable to watch you. How wild was that? How wild was the racing back there from fourth to about eighth? I saw you drive around him on the outside. How much fun was that in the last few laps?
Well, not really that fun. I'd rather have it stayed green. So, but yeah, it was just as soon as I saw Silva get past me, I knew that he was the only chance I've got to overtake Julian. So there was no point of following the dragon, as they call it.
Right.
So
yeah, it was just hanging on for P3 and settle back in.
Good deal. Well, man, great result. Great result, P3. Keep doing what you're doing, man. It's always fun to race with Matthias Strauss, and see it at Indianapolis next Saturday.
Yeah, for sure. Especially since I've qualified.
Yeah, I think you and me have a little bit of unfinished business, but for about 100 feet, Gary, this guy and I would have walked away with the last one. Look forward to racing with you again next Saturday, buddy.
Yeah, you too, bud.
Before we let you go, Matthias, anybody want to say hi to? Shout outs. You earned it here, getting on the bottom step of the podium. Good race for you, so go ahead.
Yeah, I want to thank Rider Engineering Esports for keeping me under the wings and helping me improve in both the Dallara IR05 and IR18. So big credit to them and to the sponsors.
All right, congratulations. We'll catch you next week.
Yep, thank you.
All right, I don't see John Silva in interview room yet, so we'll go ahead and bring Julian on up. Julian, a little bit more of a nail biter this time, even though last race was done by fractions of a second. You were the fastest car at the time, and but this time coming down to the checkered flag, you weren't necessarily the fastest car. You were being chased down. What was it like holding off a hard charging John Silva there at the end?
Well, going into this race, I kind of figured that the draft in this car was a little bit bigger than I thought at tracks like this. So I knew going into the final couple laps that it was going to be hard, keep them behind. But yeah, that's why I was snaking every single straight, every single lap after the restart. But yeah, a little bit before that also, I think that caution really helped me out because I would have been 0.3 laps short at the finish, and Tijn was even he was going to be 1.3 laps short because he pitted the lap earlier than I did.
Mm-hmm.
So that yellow really helped us both out. I think I would have made it because I was clutching it into turn 3
we
and
heard
4
you
at one point.
We heard you.
Yeah, so at that point, when the caution came out, I would have been 0.3 short, but it probably would have been a little bit less because I was saving so much. But yeah, I'm super happy that I was able to hold on at the end there because in my mind I was thinking I cannot lose this race when I've led the most laps of anybody and then not win the race because it's happened so often to me this year even already. So just really happy to hold them all off. Yeah, thanks to Pedro as well for helping me with the gaps to Matthias Strauss, especially behind, because when I was safing, I knew I had a gap on them, so I was able to do it. So thanks to him on keeping me updated on that. And yeah, Tang did a good job also, still finished P6, so good day.
Go ahead, Murph.
Yeah, quite an empire you're building there, Julian. You've got Pedro and Tyne coming along, and they looked really good today. Talk a little bit about your team and what your plans are for the future. You got some fun stuff coming up, don't you?
Yeah, of course, we're still going to be in the Elite Series, which is for us tonight in a couple hours in Texas. But yeah, about the team, we kind of started picking it up. This year for Indy Elite is when I really started building it up. Because before that, I had my team, but I wasn't really in the actual team seat, so to speak. If that makes sense. Like I wasn't there to run the team. But right now, I think I'm putting together a good group of guys like Dan H, Pedro, and John Christensen, and Tang, and all those guys, and Gary also, Gary Lovren. So some of them still have a bunch to learn, and I'm happy to teach them the details to improve. John, especially Pedro, is probably the star of the night. I picked him up after one race at VOR race. Just really cool to have him on the team. I am sad though that after this season he will be off to a different team. But I'm just really happy that I was able to get him started on iRacing and give him those showcase his talent, because he has a lot of it. So just really happy to have him and all the guys that I do have on the team.
Your audio is getting a little bit faint there, but we'll just go ahead and wish you congratulations on the success here. Yeah, we got you. We have to go ahead and wish you congratulations though for your team success, expanding that team success here into the IR05 series, where you finished again with another win. So that's going to help in the team championship, of course, in the overall championship. And then several of your drivers did a pretty good race today as well. So I'm sure it's going to help in the team championship. But congratulations. And then Indy's next. So we will see you there.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Want to say hi to my girlfriend also. She's downstairs.
Wise move. All
right, thanks, guys.
All right.
Thanks, Julian.
Well, that is that from Motegi. I'm trying to look and see if anything else we're missing. Don't see John, but I would imagine John's probably going to have to speak for that punt that happened with Caleb Weekly there. And there might have been another touching or two from the Brazilian. So we'll see how that gets to race control and how that might impact where he starts at Indianapolis next week.
Yeah, and that's always the thing too. I mean, this is very much a gentleman's league. It always has been, and the racing is always reflected as such. And so we'll see what happens with that. Another barn burner of an IR05 race, though. Just like Michigan was different. Where these cars can't get off the top of one another, and you're basically inching and edging forward and around other cars. Very cerebral race. It came down to fuel mileage, as I suspected it would. And so, great win for Julian Altena. Great second place. Great second place for John Silva, and a fine third for Matthias Strauss. I'm going to close by saying that I drove yesterday for the first time since the lights came back on at Indianapolis to practice and qualify for the VOR 500. And so there is no greater feeling for an IndyCar driver in the sim or in the real world than lapping the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and we're going to get to do that shortly. Next week is the big one, the IR18 500. So I'm looking forward to that. And Julian and I teammates for another couple of races in the Indy Elite Series, and we got an absolute rocket ship set for Texas. So I'm excited to do that tonight, and it'll be a long day for old Julian. He might be tired by the time this ends, but I'm looking forward to tonight in Texas.
Well, here's the remaining schedule. Coming up next week is Indianapolis. Then off the Gateway, a track similarly shaped, not as fast, not as high bank, but similarly shaped to this one. Then we off to Texas, and Texas, I believe, is going to have a special start time because that is starting on a day That I believe that is a race day. I believe IndyCar is at Barber, so that's why they different start time that day. So pay attention to that. It's all in the schedule. And then finishing up the season here. So we're getting to the halfway point here once we reach Indianapolis, finishing the season with 150 laps of California, which we assume will be a lot like the 150 laps we saw at Michigan. So if you liked what you saw at Michigan, definitely stick around for the 150 laps at California. But that is the remainder of the schedule for this first inaugural season. So I think that does it here. Let's wrap this up and get everyone back the remainder of the Sunday. So that's it for today. Once again, your podium from Motegi is Julian Altino. 2 in a row. John Silva with a great run up to P2. And Matthias Strauss, another podium for him, getting him third on the charts at the end of this race. Join Murph and myself again next week for round 3 of the inaugural season of the VOR IR05 IndyCar Series as the drivers and teams head back to the U.S. and to the world's greatest race course, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Coverage begins around 2 p.m. Eastern. Again, that's around 2 p.m. Eastern. We're having some time translation issues when it comes to daylight savings in Europe and daylight savings in the North America, so we're trying to get that all synced up here. But just pay attention to everything here on youtube.com/racefirst, and we will make sure that we will have the correct time for the stream up, and all you have to do is click on it just to watch. As you know, the YouTube algorithm game is not easy, so please help support Race First with the weekly grind. Leave a comment below to let us know about today's race, and if you enjoyed today's coverage, support us by smashing like in the video if you're new. That's the important part is if you're new, click subscribe, and while you're at it, hit the bell for weekly reminders so you don't miss out more of Race Versus other programming. iRacing programming, easy for me to say, including tomorrow night, Murph and I, trucks at Charlotte. ISRA Trucks at Charlotte at 9:35. Join us for that. Keep your browser set here for the most in-depth IndyCar knowledge and a little bit of truck knowledge on all of iRacing Race First. We know what Indy means. For business inquiries to learn more about what we do at Race First, visit racefirst.com, like us on Facebook, or follow us on Twitter. So for Mark Murphy, everyone at Race First, I'm Gary Gazzo saying all happy Sunday, and thanks for watching. And all of our men and women serving in the military and as first responders, Godspeed, God bless, and come home safe. Catch us again right here in Indianapolis for the next race of the Velocity Online Racing IndyCar IR05 Series. See ya!